right, Saturday NFL wildcard action is under wraps. Both games have come to an end. Neither game was really a nail biter as we got to the end here. Congratulations to my Baltimore Ravens and Houston Texans supporters. Your teams have moved forward. Steelers, Chargers fans, my condolences to the end of your season. But honestly, both of your guys' teams overperformed to what the expectations were. I understand that anything on the day of a playoff loss stings, it hurts, but as a team, as a whole, you guys overperformed on the season, if you ask me. Now, we're going to start with this Baltimore-Pittsburgh game because going into it, I thought that the game was going to be closer than it appeared. I really thought that the Steelers offense was more so going to look like the second half Steelers offense than the first half Steelers offense. And we'll talk about the direction of the Steelers in a little bit. I want to talk about the Baltimore Ravens. This is a team that in my playoff preview video, I picked to represent the AFC in the Super Bowl. And part of what we saw tonight is part of the reason why. This team can control the game. This team is full of talent on both sides of the football, and they toyed with their food. In the second half, the Baltimore Ravens completely and utterly toyed with the Pittsburgh Steelers. John Harbaugh came out of the halftime update saying him and Lamar agreed at 0-0. Bullshit. You didn't play that way. You played like you were up 21-0, and I get it. A lot of rushing. 50 rush attempts tonight to 16 completions, 21 pass attempts. 50 fucking rush attempts for the Ravens tonight. That was ground and pound offense. Derrick Henry, in his Ravens debut, 26 carries, 186 yards, and 2 touchdowns. That is why you went out and got Derrick Henry. In a playoff game where Zay Flowers, your number one wide receiver, doesn't play. This powerhouse that you brought into your team, $186 and 2 fucking tubs. You couldn't have asked for anything better from the king. Lamar Jackson, 16-21 passing, 175 passing yards, 2 touchdowns, a 132 passer rating, and add in 81 on the ground. The first quarter, it was just all Lamar running. The Baltimore Ravens beat the Pittsburgh Steelers into submission. The final score of 28-14 makes the game feel closer than it was. And there was a couple moments in the second half where I was like, Baltimore's given Pittsburgh a little bit of opportunity here, but you always felt like Baltimore had that ability to just turn it on and belt to ass the Steelers. And that's what they did. Pure domination. I don't want to say that they looked past an opponent, but the Steelers had been playing some of their worst football to end the season. The offense had become predictable. They were shut out in the first half. Baltimore, very likely, feeling good about themselves for reason. MVP of the league and Lamar Jackson on the team. Derrick Henry, will be in Offensive Player of the Year conversations. I don't think he'll pass Jamar or Saquon just because of historic seasons that those guys had. But Derrick Henry was an absolute stud this year. And this team is really, really impressive. Really, really good shit from the Baltimore Ravens tonight. If you're a Ravens fan, you leave this feeling job's not finished, but for tonight, we did what we had to do, handled business, maybe wish that, more of the foot was on the throat, but overall, a solid night from Baltimore. And then Pittsburgh. And I want to pull up the stats for this. Pittsburgh, it's like, where do we go from here? Was Russell Wilson the problem? Do they need a better quarterback? Well, Russ was 20 of 29, 270 yards, 2 touchdowns, no picks, a 121.3 passer rating. They had no ground game. Najee Harris, 6 for 17. Jaylen Warren, 2 for 6. What is this? What is this when it comes to a running game? Pickens, 5 for 87. The deep ball was working a little bit. I'm seeing Steelers fans call for Mike Tomlin's head. And I'm sitting here thinking, this guy gets 10, 11 wins every season. Russell Wilson, Kenny Pickett, Duck Hodges, Mason Rudolph. It doesn't matter. And, everybody's ready to get rid of him. And my thought is, could we get the guy some real offensive talent? I understand that during the Killer Bees era, maybe there was some underperforming when you were going up against Brady. and you felt like you could have won a Super Bowl there. And it's been a minute since Pittsburgh has had a playoff win. But a lot of other coaches in Mike Tomlin's position, it'd be a lot of years since Pittsburgh had a playoff berth, let alone a winning season. This guy's a winner. Wins with Russ, wins with Kenny. But at the end of the day, you're getting into the playoffs and you're matched up against what's assumed to be a 3-time MVP of the league, the most efficient offense in the NFL, and over the second half of the year, a top 10 defense. With Russell Wilson, who was fine in this game, but we can all agree is past his prime and is at best the third best quarterback in this division. Najee Harris, who averaged 2.8 yards per carry in a playoff game. George Pickens was your best option, who'd probably be better served as a 2. But his number 2 is some combination of Van Jefferson and Mike Williams. They don't have enough offensive talent to compete. The defense is fine. And I get it. The Steelers tried to make the Ayuk deal and it didn't work out. So I'm not going to say that they didn't try at all. But to me, this is a roster issue. It's not a Tomlin issue. Hell, it's not even really a Russell Wilson issue. There's only so many good quarterbacks on the market. And if you want to blow it all up and go into full tank and let go of Russ, let go of Justin, trade Tomlin for picks, by all means, go ahead. But just know it's going to get worse before it gets better. You know how many teams would kill to have a 10-7 season in a playoff game every year? You'll get plenty of value for Tomlin if you're really that out on him. The Bears would kill to have Mike Tomlin as their head coach. So, while I see Steelers fans, not all of you, some of you, crying on Twitter, we need to fire Tomlin. Tomlin's the problem. I'm here to tell you, Tomlin's the reason you guys have puncher's chance. But the offense was limited. Russ is limited. Fields is limited as a thrower. It's tough to get a good quarterback in this league. You talk about a team that should consider trying to make a trade for J.J. McCarthy if the Vikings make a run and are willing to sell. Here you are. High potential. Higher potential than any draft pick you're going to get with how consistent Tomlin wins as a head coach. The Steelers need some change, but I think it's crazy to say that it's coaching. Maybe offensive coordinator. I'd be fine moving on from Arthur Smith. Never loved the hire to begin with. And, to rush for 29 yards in a playoff game while your opponent rushes for 300, you were outgunned. And you're undermanned as it is, but that's terrible. I will say this. While I believe in Tomlin, he's not free of criticism in this game. Coming in knowing you're undermanned, those 4th and inches where he just didn't go for it and chose to punt the ball to a hyper-efficient Ravens offense, you can't do that. Quarterback sneak, Najee Harris, the plays that we saw Baltimore run on their 4th and shorts. In this league, when you're undermanned, you have to take chances. And I'd rather go out on my sword than that. So I will say that. Any Steelers fan that wish that Tomlin didn't play so cowardly tonight, I can agree with that. Because playing this game straight up when everybody knows Baltimore going in has more talent isn't going to result in a win. But to say that you don't want this guy as the coach of your team, I think is crazy. So for Baltimore, they progress forward, bigger goals ahead, but a great performance. Lamar Jackson looked like regular season Lamar Jackson in the playoffs. I want to see it another week, whether it's Houston, Buffalo, one of those two teams that's who they'd face. I want to see it again to really fully believe that Lamar's ready for the playoffs. I love Lamar. I think he's great. He's one of my favorite players in the league, but there is a little worry of the playoff hiccup, and I don't think a home win against a really falling, tilting Steelers tells me that he's okay, but I loved what I saw. For Pittsburgh, can you go acquire some offensive talent? There's a lot of wide receivers on the market. Maybe pay one, because you haven't been drafting the best of the best like you used to be. But I think the foundation there is good. Try and get McCarthy. If not, get a couple more weapons and see what you could do with the quarterback spot. The Houston Texans defeated the Los Angeles Chargers 32-12. And before we talk about Herbert and what's in the thumbnail and potentially the title, I want to give a shout out to the Houston Texans. That fucking defense absolutely came to play today. The defense showed out in this game. Will Anderson Jr., early defensive player of the year pick for me next year. Those defensive backs in Houston, my goodness, Kamari Lassiter, Derek Stingley, is that the best young cornerback duo in football? It might be. And when you add in Caden Bullock and Jalen Petrie, who's not even healthy, the Houston Texans defense is very strong for years to come. You have a good linebacking core there. D'Amico has coached the hell out of this defense, and they put the Chargers in absolute hell. The offense for Houston didn't click early on, and I was a little worried that things were going to spiral because of how much Houston was asking out of their defense. And the defense came to play. This was a statement game from Houston. Everybody had counted them out. Everybody was picking the Chargers. The Chargers were coming into their building favored to win this game. And D'Amico coached up that defense. They came out angry. They played angry. They played excellent. CJ Stroud heard all the talk about sophomore CJ Stroud and the memes of other guys wearing Stroud jerseys with dreads and how he's just terrible. And, listen, we'll pull up the stats. It's not to say that Stroud had an amazing game. 22 of 33, 282 yards, a touchdown, a pick, and 90.7 passer rating, 42 rushing yards, though. Stroud committed 325 yards of offense to the team today. You'll take that. You will certainly take that. And the guy is 23 years old. He is the youngest quarterback in these playoffs. That features two rookies, Bo Nix and Jaden Daniels. CJ Stroud's younger than them. And he has 2 playoff wins. He has the most playoff wins of any Houston Texans quarterback in the franchise's history. And I get it. They've only been around since 2002. They're younger than some of us. But in a 23-year period, not a single quarterback had multiple playoff wins while wearing a Texans jersey. Not Watson, not Schaub, not TJ Yates. I mean, how many throwback names you want there? Not Osweiler. CJ Stroud has 2. And we'll see what happens, man. But with the way that defense played, you got to at least give him a puncher's chance in a game, because Will Anderson Jr., Danielle Hunter, Autry, these guys have the ability to wreck a game. And I've said this once, I'll say it again in the NFL. What makes it so beautiful, the playoffs, and why it's so high intense is there's no playing for tomorrow. There's no 7-game series. There's no 3-game series. It is about today and who wins and who shows up today. And today it was Houston Texans. And maybe next week it'll also be the Houston Texans. Whether that's Baltimore or Kansas City. It could be the Houston Texans. And I tweeted this out, man. But at the beginning of the year, I thought this team was Super Bowl caliber. Now, I didn't account for how bad the offensive line was going to be. But if you saw this performance from this Texans team today, and you knew they had Stephon Diggs and Tank Dell ready to go for next week, you'd be thinking, can the Texans do it? Now, I think that they're probably going to be too limited offensively to complete a run, but it's any given Sunday. And you get hot at the right time, you believe in your coach, you have a quarterback who can make plays. How about that play Stroud made where the snap goes over his head, he recovers it, he rolls out of the pocket, throw across the middle, across his body, finds the open guy. Or the run that he had to get them within field goal range at the end of the first half. These are winning plays that CJ Stroud was making. And I was so tired of hearing that he sucked and sophomore slump and was bad all year. It was too much for me. It was too much for me. The Houston Texans, I liked them at +3. I thought they could win outright. I picked the Chargers because I believed in Herbert and Harbaugh more than D'Amico and Stroud, and maybe that was my bad. Let's talk about the Chargers. And I get it. Some Chargers fans are going to be mad at me. I get it. One of my bigger supporters on this channel, my guy Devin. Appreciate you, brother. Chargers fan, I got to call a spade here. We'll start with the positive. Ladd McConkey, 9 for 197 and a touchdown. How about that fucking playoff debut? Third most ever in a playoff debut in terms of receiving yards, behind Calvin Johnson and Demaryius Thomas. But let me go full screen here. I talked about this in the playoff previews, and I've kind of talked about it for a couple of weeks here, some on Twitter, some on YouTube. The anointing of Justin Herbert as a clear, definitive top 5 quarterback, I didn't fully understand. Everybody said Mahomes, Lamar, Allen, Burrow, Herbert. If that isn't your top 5, you don't know ball. That's what I had to hear. And I sat back and I thought, I've seen Justin Herbert in a big spot one time, and he blew, what was it, a 28-0 lead to Trevor Lawrence. I don't know. I seen Justin Herbert play good at the end of this year, but it was against the Raiders and the tanking Patriots. How much stock do I put in that? I don't know. And anytime I would even kind of just suggest it to friends, online, whatever it may be, the pushback I got was like, you don't know ball, Herbert's super talented. It was always Brandon Staley's fault. And I'm here to tell you, the Chargers are a much better team today with Jim Harbaugh, and I still believe in their future. They have to go get some more fucking weapons, because you can't just roll out with Ladd McConkey and a bunch of nothing. And I understand that. But we need to reel in the Justin Herbert agenda. The man was 14 of 32 with 4 interceptions and a 40.9 passer rating. And I get it, one of the interceptions wasn't his fault. But the decision-making, the processing, playing loose with the football. When CJ Stroud threw that terrible interception into triple coverage, I thought that was going to be the game. The Chargers have such good field position. They're about to go up 2 scores. I don't know if Houston can recover. In the very next play, 1st down and 10, Justin Herbert rolls out, cross-body, all the way across the fucking field, double coverage, mind you, to Quentin Johnston we're taking the shot to, and gives the ball right fucking back to Houston. If I was a Chargers fan, I would have been livid. I would have been jumping up and down on my fucking couch, cursing this guy's name out. And believe you me, I am an Oregon Ducks fan. Nobody wants to see Justin Herbert succeed in the NFL as much as me. Maybe Chargers fans, but I'm rooting for this guy's success. But you got to call a spade a spade. This guy is not a top 5 quarterback. I'm not taking him right now over CJ Stroud, who he played against, over Jared Goff, over Jalen Hurts. Guys who have proven to be able to make Super Bowls, have multiple playoff wins, have shown more. It's not to say that Herbert isn't a low-end top 10 guy. I understand the talent's there, and trust you me, I believe that when we get the weapons around Justin Herbert, when they spend the money on a T. Higgins, or they draft somebody in that spot, or really get some talent that isn't Quentin fucking Johnson and DJ Chark running meaningful routes in a playoff game, that the Chargers can be legit contenders. But we aren't there yet. And I'm not going to act like we are. And until we get there, and then I can see Justin Herbert succeed, I will give him the flowers. But at this point, with this performance, 14 of 32, 242 yards, 1 touchdown, 4 interceptions, a 13 QBR, and a 40.9 passer rating, I'm sorry, that's not top 5. Houston hadn't been playing great ball. The defense I believed in, but to put up this kind of performance rips you out of top 5 conversations. You got to call a spade a spade. You have to. You have to. And what else is glaring when you look at this again? McConkey, 9 for 197 and a touchdown. The next leading receiver is Will fucking Disley at 2 for 16 yards. I get it, Chargers fans. You need more help. I'm fully with you. An 11-6 season is better than many expected. And tomorrow, maybe you'll feel that way. But I get why you're so pissed today. I really do. And if you're a Texans fan, take your victory lap. Rex Ryan, you tell him to go fuck himself for what he was saying. The Chargers also got a bye week. That's what Rex Ryan said. And Chargers fans, you want to blame somebody for jinxing your team? Rex Ryan. Because you talk about bulletin board material. That was it at its finest. CJ Stroud played great. Good. CJ Stroud played good. Had a great second half. Houston's defense really carried. Nico Collins had a really, really solid day. The Texans ate over the middle of the field, too. That's something that the Chargers got to look into. I thought the middle of the field was wide open all day. Houston kind of had their way with this team from the middle of the second quarter on. It was a little B to A action, belt to ass. But those are my thoughts on everything we saw today. Apologies for Chargers fans. I had to go in on Justin Herbert there a little bit. I love Herbie. Hope for the best for him. If you're new to the channel and you made this far in the video, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. We'll be back up here tomorrow, talk about the 3 games tomorrow. And of course, Monday, we'll be talking about that game as well. I appreciate your guys' support. I'll catch you next time. Peace.